Life is full of work and stress. Parenting can be a mess. Being a woman is hard enough without adding on that extra stuff. We'll cover topics of every kind. Helpful resources we will find. We'll even drink a bottle of wine. Join us. It will be a real good time. Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Nikki.
And welcome to Working Mom's Wine, where we drink a bottle of wine
and whine about our working mom lives and hopefully try to improve ours and yours by offering some resources along the way.
That's right. And this month we are doing Financial February, so we're on week 2. And I know we didn't talk about them last time, but we have some pretty awesome shirts. It says, warning, the girls are drinking again.
Mm-hmm.
That's very fair.
It's very fair. And the best Christmas present from my sister I've ever received.
I found it at a craft show we go to every year, and I was buying one for her, and I was like, oh, maybe I should buy one for me too, and then we can wear them together.
Heck yes.
I don't even know if we were talking about the podcast at that point. Like, I might have just...
Oh, really?
How far ago did we start this?
I don't know.
I'll have to look.
It was last year, but I don't know.
Yeah. So we are doing a sangria this time. It is very delicious.
It's one of our local to us wines.
Yes.
It does smell really
More
good.
of the small batch winery. It says, our version of a warm Spanish summertime drink. Imagine sitting under olive or citrus trees with a slight breeze, overlooking the old world charm of cobblestone streets among century-old houses since time began. With the taste of peaches, apricots, and oranges, you'll find a fresh flavor with a smooth finish.
These guys make the best descriptions.
They really do. And I think by the time we're done talking about Financial February, maybe we'll be able to pursue the dream on the back of this bottle.
Yes.
And it's much less scary than the Irishman you had from last week.
Yeah, he was creepy.
He was very creepy.
He's still staring at us from the desk. I'm not going to lie. So this winery also has a Wine of the Month club and things like that. Mm-hmm. So go online and check them out. We hope to one day visit in person on a live, maybe. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Do some reviews.
I think that would be a really good idea.
Yeah.
And she did say, we were talking with the lady running the table. She said that she always has some that she suggests, but you are more than welcome to switch them out if you're not into the type of wines that she suggests.
Yeah. So for the monthly one, you can change your pick or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So this week we're going to whine about how it very often feels like you will never, ever, ever, ever be able to retire.
It's tough out there.
Ever.
It's tough out there with the middle class disappearing, feeling like you have any part of your paycheck that you can give to savings and retirement is difficult.
And I will say, from a home buying background, I talked to many people who retired, and they have retirement, and they have Social Security, and then they started working again. They were like, yeah, it wasn't enough, and I started working again. And so we have to cover, a lot of them do go back part-time instead of full-time, but we have to kind of go over what that means and how so we can use the income with the home buying process. But just the fact that a lot of people I talked to are like, yeah, I retired for a year and then went back. It's like, I see my future.
Yes, this is the life we are living if you even get to retire at all.
Mm-hmm.
And don't depend on Social Security at all, because it is going away more and more every year. By the time we retire, it won't be a thing. You need to have millions in your retirement accounts in order to actually retire in a comfortable way in America. Of course, there are other options. You can go abroad, and I will give you a couple screen names. There are a couple people I follow who talk about what countries will accept people for retirement, and they're the cheapest to live in and that sort of thing, the easiest to get visas and all those sorts of things in. So that's another option if you are able to move overseas and retire there. But we're going to focus mostly on attempting to build wealth from 40 years plus for retirement in our Financial February.
Just make sure you don't go anywhere where they use the euro, because sometimes the euro is worth more than the dollar.
You're not wrong.
That was one of the things when we were younger. I took a few trips to South America, and then we both got to go to Europe. and I had been to South America first, and I was really looking forward to how far my American dollar was going to go in Europe, and boy, was I disappointed. That was a long time ago, though.
I was so unaware when I was there of what any of that meant anyway that it did not make an impression on me. But
basically, when we went, every dollar you spent, you had to spend 50 cents more.
Yeah, it didn't even register to me. Because I have never been of a financial mindset. Despite being the person in my marriage for 12 years who did all of the budgeting and bill paying and all of that stuff, it was just about paying things on time and never about planning and investing and wealth.
Yeah.
That the word wealth was like, yeah, right to me. Like,
right.
No,
exactly.
Never. I just want to do better than my parents.
Paycheck to
take
paycheck.
a step up and hope that my child will eventually do the same. You know?
Yeah. And I think it's a little ridiculous at your and I's levels that we still feel like we live paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
But we do.
So financial February, we're talking about retirement. But for anyone who is at the very beginning of this stage, who has no idea where to start and what order to do things, learn things, and where to put your focus, where to put your money at first, I've got the hot goss for you. Okay.
I've been waiting for this.
So I have been following several people on TikTok and YouTube that are financial advisors. Okay, so if we're starting at the very basics, most of these people I follow have given the same post about this in one way or another and agree on the initial steps. So I feel like this is a good baseline foundation place to start. Order of operations, as they call it. First, you need an emergency fund in a high yield savings account. So if you didn't listen to our last episode, SoFi is a really good place to get the highest percentage of a high yield savings account. But certainly shop around, check the banks, check the apps, check all the offers out. But SoFi typically has one of the highest high yield savings percentage amounts. But of course, check with all your banks and creditors and things.
Yeah.
So priority one, emergency fund in your high yield savings account. How much is in your emergency fund? I have heard varied, anywhere from like 1 month of expenses to 3 months. So for financial February, we want to start with the basics. We're looking at building wealth through compound interest over time. And yes, even in your 40s, you can start now and it will still be beneficial for you.
Yes.
It is never too late to start. You just have to actually start. And that can be painful because you freeze up with, am I making the right choice? Am I putting my money in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? Sometimes just doing something is the right thing.
Right.
And then you can grow your knowledge from there and move your money around as needed. So most of the financial people I follow on social media kind of agree on the same basic foundational steps. The first place to start is by opening that high yield savings account, whether it be through SoFi, which I prefer, or other places. Compare the interests. But at SoFi, you're able to get up to 4.65%, which is really high.
Massive.
And this is where you want to put your emergency fund, which should be 1 to 3 months of your income, your expenses amounts, basically. What you do is up to you, but 1 to 3 months is the general recommended amount. Anything that you're saving for, like a down payment on a house, a new car, whatever it is, any of that savings goes in here to grow interest while you're saving it. And because it's easily accessible in a high yield savings account, as opposed to if you put it into your retirement account, then there's lots of rules and regulations on when you can withdraw that money. So got to think about that when you're putting money into account, what it's for and how quickly you might need it. So step number 1 in the order of operations is to open a high yield savings account and build your emergency fund.
I love that idea because we got started on Ramsey's system. And he
I got some words.
I know. He recommends a flat $1,000 in your savings. Does not say anything about high yield or anything like that.
Yeah.
But as you are going to bring up later, only saving up a small amount in the beginning can actually set you back when you end up having a problem. But I also love the idea of putting it in a high yield account because if it's sitting in the bank, you're gaining little to no interest on it. Whereas
Yes.
in this situation, it's already going to start earning for you in the meantime.
Yeah. The more interest, the better. Mm-hmm. So put it all in there and compound that as much as you can. But the whole point of an emergency fund is that you can pay for those unexpected fees that come up without having to put it on a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you still put it on a credit card and get the points and then pay it from your emergency fund? Heck yes.
Wish I'd thought of that.
Get as much of the rewards as you can. Pay for it with your credit card, but have the emergency fund to then go immediately put that amount onto your credit card so you don't pay any interest on
and
it.
Be disciplined and actually do it.
Yes. But that is the whole point of building your high yield savings account emergency fund before you start seriously investing in your retirement. Because if you can't pay for emergencies when they come up,
right,
you can't be investing.
Yeah. And that has set us back multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
We would put the $1,000 in there. We would start doing, if you guys are familiar with the Ramsey system, step 2 is debt snowballing. And then once you pay off the initial debt, then you start putting more into your savings. So we would start getting on that path, and then something would come up. And when I tell you that more often than not, your emergency is going to cost you more than $1,000.
Car repairs, vet bills,
right,
braces,
right, or you have multiple emergencies or whatever, we would often get to the point where we had to drain the fund,
mm-hmm.
and then we would end up also taking on more debt to get through whatever the problem was, and then we were back to square one, if not worse.
Yeah.
No offense to Dave Ramsey. The system is great.
Offense to Dave Ramsey.
I like certain parts of the system.
Mm-mm.
I do like this one more.
I have to say, Dave Ramsey as a person is really judgmental and rude.
Yes.
And
as
he
a
uses
person,
words I don't appreciate, like stupid.
Yeah.
When it's really him that is stupid because he is disconnected from what things cost these days.
Yeah.
And he would do a real service to himself if he would get educated. However,
that's the thing. Like, as a person, I do not like him.
I do appreciate that he came in during a time when there was no financial education and offered some.
Mm-hmm.
He did start a financial education movement through churches. Which was important, and at the time was all that people really had access to. Now we're at a time where you have access to more opinions, more advice, and people who are able to communicate it to you without insulting you. So that's nice.
It is always more well received when
yes.
you aren't being super insulting.
Yeah. And people who are connected to what life costs these days.
Yeah.
He went viral recently for calling somebody stupid for paying $29,000 a year for childcare, when that is the median amount that you pay per year for a child.
You can't control childcare
And he
costs.
insulted this person and said, you should be minimizing that child care amount and taking advantage of free summer camps. And all the moms on social media got on and said, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
There is no such thing
as
a free summer camp.
No.
And people pay more than that in areas that are high demand. Like, there are a ton of kids and not a lot of child care places. You might pay more than $29,000 a year. It is a reality that we face these days as families.
Yeah, that's really tone deaf.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But sometimes I watch these clips of his podcast and I'm like, you catch more flies with honey? Talking to people like this is not nice. True. It's not kind, and it's definitely not Christ-like, which is his whole platform. So
that's the thing. It's really not. And you're not waking people up.
No.
They're just going to get mad or ashamed.
You're just rude, sir. You're just rude.
Right. Like, let's
You're
be
a rude
helpful.
old white man, which we're trying to get rid of. So all hail the financial feminist. I might be a little biased. I understand. I'm seeing things through the viewpoint of what I'm surrounding myself with. I get it, Uncle Fred. Okay.
It's fair though. Like, as much as I enjoyed the idea of his system, and when we started on it, there
was good points.
Like 10-ish years ago.
Yeah. It's been a hot minute.
And he wasn't like, he had his radio show, but you didn't see a lot of these viral clips of him actually talking, and we were just looking at the system itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, the more I hear him say words, the less I like him.
He's not a nice person, but he does offer a system that helps people get out of debt.
Yeah.
So if your focus is debt reduction and not wealth growth, it's a good place to go. However,
it can be.
Wealth growth is better.
Yeah. And as
in
someone,
the long run,
as someone who has
totality.
used his system year after year, and I actually have free access to his system right now through my job,
yeah.
which is great. I love that we have free access to it because it's got a lot of good resources on it.
Yeah.
It gets you in that loop of you're starting to do better, and then something happens, and you're back to square one immediately. And this is like, this helps you escape that loop.
Yes, exactly. So you get that emergency fund funded so that you can handle those things that come up. Mm-hmm. And each time you have an emergency and you use that fund, that just means your extra monies goes to focusing on rebuilding that again first,
you have to
as
focus
opposed
on
to
that.
Paying higher amounts onto your debts.
Yeah.
So step 2 is you write out every account you have, the amount that you owe, the percentage that you owe each year. You get honest and familiar with what you owe and your debts.
Brandon, stop listening right now. Just stop. Just cut it off right now. Every time that we have a budget meeting, he's like, I would really like to see the balance on our accounts and the interest rates. And I'm like, oh, we don't need that.
Girl, that is step 2. Step 2. It is early.
I don't want to do all that. No, I'm joking.
And Tori even talks about having monthly money dates with yourself, with your partner.
Yeah.
Where you sit down and you look at all those
about
things
that,
again.
but we try to do it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, we did do it this month.
It brings up a lot of shame and guilt and all kinds of things.
Or just the timing of having to sit down and do it. Like we were like,
Truth.
when can we do it? This date? Nope. I have this and you have okay, this date? Nope. We're not here together at the same time.
Especially you guys, you work on like opposites a lot. So.
But we did finally find a time this month to sit down. But literally the last 2 months, I think, we have not had our monthly budget meeting. And he can access the app where we pay things or notate what we've paid off and things like that. Yeah. And he put something together. So many rabbit trails I'm taking you down today. But when we were looking at buying a house, he made this whole spreadsheet of these are all of our debts. These are the monthly payments. So I looked up all the balances or payoff amounts because that can be different for the record. Yeah. Things like that. And then we were kind of like, okay, if we end up doing this and selling our house, what will be the things that we pay off versus the things that we keep? And then as time has gone on, I've been reducing those balances as we pay things down. Or if we, have a rough month and we have to put something back on a credit card, I bump it back up. And that way he has at least a sheet where he can go and see how much we owe in total on each thing.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to do it. You got to know the information before you can make an informed decision. Mm-hmm. And we got to get honest and less shameful about what we have and just be brutally honest about it so we can make a good decision. If we're not all informed, we can't make a group decision if you're sharing your finances with somebody else. Mm-hmm. So you build the emergency fund, you gather all the information about your accounts and your percentages, and you pay off your high interest credit card, typically debt. So anything that is 7% or above interest rate, you're going to focus all of any extra monies that you have onto paying those debts off. And they recommend the avalanche method, which is where you start with the highest interest rate debt, paying all your extra monies to that. And then when that's done, you take that money that you were using for that and you pay it to the next one.
Yeah.
And you do it until everything is below a 7% interest rate. Because when you invest in your retirement accounts, the typical average yield is 7% on your investments on retirement. So you don't want to have debts that are at a higher percentage rate than what you would earn in your retirement account by putting the same money in there.
That's something we always used to talk about too when we were using the Ramsey system.
Yeah.
Because he has you go by the things you owe the least on. Mm-hmm. And to an extent, you're like, okay, cool, I'll pay these things off sooner and then snowball more. But you look at the higher interest rate things and you're like, I don't know if this is a good idea. I have one account where because of the interest, even when I make the payments on it, we're still owing more and more on it each month.
Yeah, and that's the point of the avalanche method is Snowball is great for encouraging you by paying off debts one by one, and you say, oh, I'm one debt less, I'm one debt less. But if you look at the overall picture of your percentage and your interest rates, you will pay much more in the long run doing the Snowball method than you will the avalanche method. Mm-hmm. So you start at the top, and you avalanche down.
I can't believe that 7% is the marker, though. Like, I used to think, oh, 7%,
is.
that's awesome, you know?
Yes.
And I'd only be worried about the things that were like 30%. But that's...
And well, most credit cards these days are 21 or higher percent interest rate. So
Yes. Mine are
but
often
student
like
loans are
25
usually a
to
little lower than
29.
7%. So you're paying off your credit cards, but maybe you're keeping your car loan and your student loans, that kind of, your mortgage, that kind of stuff. You don't want those investments to stop you from investing in your retirement.
Right.
Before you've paid them off. And another thing that Dave Ramsey doesn't address properly is the fact that being completely debt-free and having no lines of credit hurts your credit score and your ability to do things later.
I run into this so much. If you do not have a credit score at all, so first of all, when you stop using credit, it's not like you suddenly go to zero. Your credit score will decrease. And so you might go from having 800 credit or 720 credit to 500 credit. And that's not good.
Yeah.
In our most...
not pretty.
in our most lenient moment as a company, we have allowed people with 600 scores or higher to buy. So if you were below 600, we work with those people, but you can't buy until you hit 600. And even then, it's lots of hoops to jump through to buy a home.
Yeah.
So you stop, and that's very often what the case is. I will tell people on the phone, you're about to feel punished for running your finances without credit. Even though you're being fiscally responsible, we cannot lend to you because we have to have scores in order to lend to you. Now, there are exceptions. If you have a lot of assets in the bank, if you have other certain requirements that we have to have you meet, you can have no scores and buy a home. But you do have to meet, it's like 9 or 10 different requirements in order to do that. Whereas if you had like at least one card open and you were putting your gas on it and paying it off every month and maintaining your scores, this is my biggest rant about anything. The credit bureaus make you play this nasty game because they know you have to have scores. And if you're not using them at all, they find a way to punish you, basically. So
yeah. And that's a big piece of the advice that you hear is like, don't write off credit cards like Dave Ramsey tells you to.
Right.
Use them for your monthly expenses, but only to the amount that you pay off that card in the clear before the interest applies.
He's very extremist about a lot of things. Like, it used to be everything had to be cash, even your gas. And then eventually they were like, we recognize that's just not the world we live in anymore.
Yeah. And you can contact each credit card that you have and ask them, like, what is the date where interest starts applying? And you can pay it off before that date of the month.
Yes.
And they won't list it clearly on the website because, of course, they want to make money off your interest. But you can ask them, and they do have to tell you, what is that date for my card that if I pay everything off by that date, there will be no interest grown on it.
One mistake we made when we were trying to make our credit better, we had and this is partly because I don't think I fully understood the arrangement we had with this particular company.
Yeah.
We had one of those, if you pay it off by a certain date, like the initial interest free, which I know is a little different from what you're talking about. But they were like, you have until a certain time to pay it off, and then you don't have to pay interest. I did not realize that if we didn't do it by that point, that all the past interest was then going to be put onto it. So it was something where we literally only had to pay like $100 or $109 more dollars. And the next month it went up to like $600 and we're still paying it off.
Predatory.
Yeah. And I was like, if I had known, I would have gladly given you the last of that.
Yes, exactly.
And I was
these are the things you have to pay attention to when you sign up for these cards. All the fine print, all of the rules and regulations. Yeah. And that's why it's helpful to follow these people on social media because they will talk about that. They'll say, this is the card I use. This is why. These are the pros. These are the cons. And you can find that just by Googling. Make sure you know what you're getting into card-wise before you get into it.
Yep.
Know all the rules and what you have to do to keep the interest off of it.
Yes.
But utilize that. If your credit card usage is, I think it's at 10% is the rule, then that looks good to the credit bureaus if you're using 10% of your credit.
I thought it was 30.
Is it 30?
It's 30 for us. You want your utilization to be at 30% or less.
I think I've heard 30. I might be mixing that up in my head. This is why you follow the financial experts and not Nikki.
Well, and that's another thing that upset me recently. When I was trying to rebuild my credit, I did take out a card that's recommended for that. And I've been making the payments on time, not paying it off every month on this particular card, but we were making the payments on time every month. And I did not know this because I didn't read all of the fine print, because who does? But they check your credit once a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And if they see anything on there that they don't like, whether it's that your utilization has gone up or you've missed a payment somewhere else or whatever,
sneaky,
they lower your approved amount.
Mm-hmm.
I had absolutely zero reason over the last couple of times for my amount to be lowered, other than I might have opened another small card here and there for like when I opened the Amazon card for the rewards, things like that. So they lowered my balance multiple times, like the amount I was allowed to borrow out against. And I contacted them one time and I'm like, this is insane to me because I have never missed a payment with your company. I haven't been missing payments with any of these companies, really. Like, we've been the most responsible in this area we've ever been, because now I'm in a licensed position where if your credit gets to a certain point, you can't get your licenses renewed, and then I don't get to have a job. So I'm very aware of my credit these days.
Yeah.
So I told them, I said, I am trying to keep my credit utilization low, and you are ruining that by lowering the balance because it raises my utilization.
Yep.
And they were like, well, I mean, you actually agreed to let us do this. And I was like, oh, I'm going to close my account. There's no way I ever agreed to that. And I went back and read it. 100% I accidentally agreed to it. But it's just like all those little things that you don't know. And I looked into it, and there's multiple cards that I use that they have that permission from me. And because we don't read all the fine print, we didn't know that.
Sneaky. Mm-hmm. So you got to read the fine print. You got to know all the details before you go into something.
Yeah.
Let's be well informed in 2024.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. So order of operations, you're putting that emergency fund in your high yield savings account. You're paying off your high interest, typically credit card debt, anything above 7% interest rate. Then you're investing for retirement. And you're going to automate it. Make it happen before you even see it, you know? This has been a game changer for me, the automation. In order to open a high yield savings account and to get the highest percentage rate of interest, one of the steps they have you take is automating a deposit, direct deposit from your payroll. I did that, and I swear to you, I have not noticed the money being gone a bit. But I have noticed my emergency fund growing. So there is that. Okay.
Do you have to put a certain amount in?
No. There was no minimum.
Have to be per paycheck, or can it be per month?
That I don't know. Because I think it's per month. I think it can be per month because there's one way to do it directly from your bank account and directly from your payroll. So it depends on how you do it. I think I did mine from payroll, though, so it was bi-weekly.
Yeah.
And then it just gets put in there and starts growing interest. And the fun part is you still have immediate access to it. So if you set up a direct deposit and it's like $25 a paycheck and you suddenly need that $25, you have immediate access to it. You don't have to pull it out and face penalties and things like you would from a retirement account. Automate it.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. And then investing for retirement, there's lots of advice here, but the basics that I have gathered is that first if your employer offers a 401k match, you do that amount.
Always.
So like mine does a 3% match. So I do 3% into my 401k and they match it because that's free money. Don't ever give up free money. But the rest should go into a Roth IRA. Now there are different kinds of Roth accounts. That could be a whole other episode.
That's what I've been slacking on.
However, you pick the one that sounds like it's going to be the best fit for you. I highly advise the podcasts from Her First 100K, Financial Feminist, Tori Dunlap, because she breaks down the kinds of Roth IRAs that are out there, or the kinds of IRAs that are out there, which one is best, what they're for, all of that good stuff. So you know which kind to open. I opened a Roth IRA personally, and what I did was I was taking a certain percentage of my paycheck into my 401k. It was more than the 3% matching.
Yeah, I think I do more than the matching at our company.
Because I think at certain ages they recommend a certain percentage amount goes into retirement, and I've just been Googling that each year and making sure I'm meeting the percentage amount.
Our company will do automatic increases unless you tell them not to, and I've just been letting them do it.
So I turned that off this year because I found out that it's better to put money in a Roth than a 401k as far as growth for your wealth. So I do the minimum matching in my 401k, and then I take the rest of that percentage I would have been taking out anyway, and I put it into a Roth. But the thing to know about a Roth is that you then have to go and select your investments. If you just dump money into a Roth, it's just sitting there. You have to choose investments.
How often?
Every time you put money in.
Oh.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of work.
You can automate it. You can say every time you get this much money, I want you to buy this much stock in this much company or whatever it is. And they have recommendations on what you do that for. But you can also pick things like robo investing, where they take a certain percentage of it, but they automatically invest that money for you into certain, funds. You can
I thought maybe that was where you asked ChatGPT where you wanted it to go.
I know nothing of AI. You can also choose target date funds. So if you know what age you want to retire at, and then they'll suggest what funds to put it in, and you have to select it. But every time money comes from your paycheck into the Roth, you have to go in and tell it where to invest. Unless you're doing the robo, I think it automatically does it then, which is the benefit of robo. But then, you're paying somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
So it's the amount of how much effort and time do you want to put into this? Do you want to know what accounts to put it into and figure all that out and do it yourself? Or do you want someone to just automatically do it and you pay them to do that?
Honestly, I think Brandon would be in his happy place if I let him do that.
Hey, if you are into it and you want to learn about it, you save a lot of money doing that.
Yeah.
So all for it. I right now put money automatically into my Roth, and then every paycheck, every pay period, I go into my Fidelity app, because all mine is through Fidelity, and I select where I want them to buy shares from. And right now I'm just basing it on what these people are saying that I follow on social media, because I don't know enough yet. But there are lots of cool things, like Tori offers Stock Market School, where you pay a certain money for the course, of course, but you get long-term Facebook group where you can ask advice. You get one-on-one coaching with her. You get courses that teach you how to choose investments well, that sort of thing, so that you get the education along the way that you can do this for yourself for the rest of your life, as opposed to robo investing where they're just doing it for you and you're not really learning why they choose what they choose.
Yeah.
And
you're trusting that they're making good choices.
Exactly. And there was something crazy. Let me see if I can find it, about the difference between investing for yourself and what a financial advisor did, and like the difference. And it was insane.
That's why being a financial advisor is so lucrative.
Basically, the thought from her book was that they've done research, and you do not earn a bunch more money letting a financial advisor make a choice for you as you do making an informed choice yourself. You actually make more money when you learn how to do it yourself and make those choices than a financial expert would make for you. And they did, a several years long study on it, and basically found out that they don't make better decisions than the average American when they are well informed on how to make these decisions.
And then you're paying them.
Right. You're paying them for their fee for doing that. And while that's all great and dandy, and we all like to have experts in the area and all of that, if you are building wealth from the bottom up, every percentage and penny counts. So if you can learn to do it for yourself, if you are a money numbers-minded person, go for it. And don't listen to the naysayers who say that women can't do that, because we can. There are lots of really great accountant, financial women in the world now. We know that this myth about how men are better with money and numbers is ridiculous. It's a myth they invented so that they could stay on top. It's not true. It doesn't depend on your gender. It just depends on your brain. Okay? There are people that are not good with math and money. I'm not good with math. I'm terrible at math. But it's not because I'm a woman. It's because I didn't learn the skill. And I can learn the skill, and I'm doing it now. And you can too.
I've never considered myself a math-minded person, but after working at a job where I have to do certain amounts of math, I could easily look at 8th grade Amanda and be like, actually, you can understand math. You just They haven't been taught well.
Yes. Yes. A lot of it is about the teaching too. And that's part of the beauty of these little courses that these people are offering now. I say little courses, I don't mean to demean it, but it's, it's affordable and it's information that will help you for your whole life. And they, you get in on the ground floor like they're doing now and you have access for your whole life. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome.
So we're building the emergency fund. We're paying off high interest credit. We're investing in retirement, and then we're saving for the big ticket items. Once you've automated your retirement investment, that's when you start saving for things like a new car, a house down payment, whatever it is.
But what if I want my PlayStation 5 now?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Patience is a virtue? I don't know. Don't go into debt for it. That's what I can tell you. If you have the cash and you decide instead of putting it on your high interest credit that you want to buy this gaming system, do that for a small purchase.
That's what I like about our reward system at work, actually.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend this, but I did get a little bit into a gambling website and got a little bit of a GameStop gift card that way. But then I got a large GameStop gift card through work. Mm-hmm. And every time that my team does well, if they hit a certain marker, they get to spin a prize wheel. If enough of them hit that same marker, I get to spin the prize wheel. Ooh. So I'm just biding my time until I have spun enough of the prize wheel to get enough of the GameStop gift cards to buy it that way. But I digress.
Hey, that works.
I know.
That works.
That's how I paid. I know we covered this last week, but that's how I paid for Disney. Some of Disney was I accumulated those, they call them tangos, and then you put them, you can take all of them and group them into one monetary amount and then go buy a gift card. So I bought Disney gift cards.
Heck yeah. Yeah, those are the foundational steps. Yeah. And then do a monthly money date where you, once a month, you write out every account, the amount you owe, the percentage it is, you review your goals. What are your financial goals for the year? Mm-hmm. Am I going to pay off this card in 1 year? Am I going to save for this thing in 1 year? What is your yearly goal? And really get focused on that and make it specific. We've talked about goals before here, SMART goals.
Yeah. Make them smart.
Specific, measurable, timed, all achievable, all those things. And then once a month, checking your progress on it. I made a little thermometer about a week ago for my emergency fund savings. Like, this is how much I've saved, and this is my goal, and I color it in as I go.
And I love those.
It's fun. It's fun to color it in and to watch it grow. And I was telling Amanda before we started recording today, I opened my SoFi account to look at it because in the last episode I recommended it as a money saving thing. And I wanted to have the information pulled up in front of me. And I noticed that another deposit had been made to my high yield savings account, and I had more money in it. I was like, this is so cool. I did not recognize it was missing from my paycheck, but I saw it in my savings account.
There you go.
So it's a beautiful thing. Just get started. And they say all the time, the important step is getting started. It's not how much. So if all you can save is $1 every paycheck, do it. You won't miss it.
And then it compounds.
Put it in there and let it compound. Mm. And then, starting a money diary to see where your money is even going. If you're a person like me who puts it all on a credit card, sometimes those little things add up that you don't realize you're spending money on.
And some of those apps are really good at giving you a year in review, and you're just like, oh, wow.
How much did I give to Amazon? Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Right. My boss likes to joke about, she'll get the recap from Starbucks, and she goes to Starbucks quite often. And she's like, I don't know if they should be showing me that because it's almost a little depressing sometimes.
It's discouraging to continue to spend at that company.
Exactly. You spend way more than you think you do.
I have an Excel sheet where I put out every month for the year, and I put a different set of tables underneath each pay period I'm going to get for that month. And I lay out what bills are going to be under what pay period, so I know what to expect. And under that now, I have my savings goals, the things I'm saving each month for that I know are recurring yearly fees.
Yeah.
And then under that now, I keep a spending diary where I mark everything that I've spent on any credit card so I can see exactly like what was gas, what was money, or what was groceries, what was, fun stuff or whatever, and making sure that I'm paying it off each pay period too, which is very helpful. So,
and it's definitely good to always set up a budget.
Yeah.
And you might feel like it's hard to do that with your job if it is variable income, where you don't necessarily know what you're going to bring home. And this is one thing where I appreciate the idea of it, but I think in practicality might not run the same either, is under the Ramsey system, he said, always do your pillars first, your house payment, your utilities, your food, your gas. Yes, to an extent, but also, as someone who has had to do sort of a rolling budget, if you push off utilities for a little bit, like a couple of weeks, they're not going to necessarily shut you off. So know when they're going to shut you off and then make your decisions. But I do think it's important to recognize that if you don't know exactly how much you're going to bring home every month, try to establish a baseline of, well, this has been pretty consistent as the minimum.
Yeah.
Put in for the minimum and then go from there. And definitely always make sure that you're paying your rent or housing first, because you don't want to be homeless. Make sure that you can afford your food. Make sure that you can keep the heat and the lights and the air on, and then go on to these other things.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And know that there is help out there if you are low income and you can't get your utilities paid and things like that. Go to findhelp.org, put in your zip code, see what programs are in your area. There are income requirements for a lot of programs, but they do exist. They are sometimes exhausted. But if they are, when you call them, ask them, what is the date where you reopen or you get your refresh of amount? And you get in there on that first date and get that help that you need. Because there are dates where the programs refresh with the amount of money they're given by the government or whoever, you know.
And don't be afraid to reach out to your creditors too. I used to be the person that would just ignore the phone calls. But if you communicate with them, very often they are also going to try to help you out. There's some of them will have programs where if you end up jobless, there's some concessions they can make. Some of them will work with you if you're in a temporary situation. And not only does communicating with them show that you still have that intent and all of that, you get harassed less. Like, I used to get all these phone calls and I'd just be like muting them all the time. And when you're talking to them, you get a whole lot less of those.
You sure do. And another thing to know is that there are benefits that you should explore. If you are employed, ask your HR department, do I have an employee assistance program? A lot of times it comes with free counseling sessions per year, free financial advice sessions. So you could meet with a financial advisor, give them the layout of what you have and get their advice on what your next steps are. Sometimes there's legal consultations. So like when I needed to get divorced, I called and I got a free consultation from a lawyer on what my steps should be. And I also got a discount on his per hour rate if I stayed with him. So there's lots of good benefits there. If you have an employee assistance program, explore it for sure. If you don't know, just get the number and call and say, I need to know what my employee assistance program benefits are. What are all the options I have? A lot of health insurances now have things like what I do, which is called a behavioral health case manager. If you have mental health struggles, this is a great way to get further assistance in gaining access to all of these programs and things. We help connect you not only to therapists, psychiatrists, providers, support groups that are related to whatever your diagnosis or health issues might be, but we also give you information like, what is the number to my employee assistance program? How many counseling sessions do I get per year with my employee assistance program? Oh, you have financial issues? Let me make a referral to the social worker on our team who will then do the search and see what programs are in your area related to the issue that you're having and give you those phone numbers and websites to go to. There are people through your medical insurance benefits that can help you find the resources for these things. So utilize it. It's free. It's not an additional cost to you. All you have to do is call the number on the back of your card and say, I need to be connected to a social worker, a behavioral health case manager, and they will help. And you don't have to have a specific behavioral health diagnosis to get that. if you see a therapist or a psychiatrist, or you've been to treatment before, or anything in the system that would flag you having any sort of behavioral health struggles ever, they can connect you to the right person. Or if you feel like you have that and you haven't gotten the help yet, maybe you've never been in treatment before, but you're stressed and anxious and depressed and all these things, you can say, I need a behavioral health case manager to help connect me to in-network providers with my insurance company, and they will help you with all the other things as well.
It's so much better than getting a sheet of paper of addresses and names and numbers, and you got to go through them all.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but my insurance, that's what I do for a job. I am the case manager.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone needs a therapist, I make all the initial calls first. I do a provider search, and I call the provider to make sure, 1, are they actually a provider that is still at that address and working?
Yeah.
2, are they taking new clients? 3, do they still accept this insurance? Because they might come up as in-network in the provider search on the websites, but maybe they decided to stop taking us and they just didn't tell us.
Right.
That happens all of the time. And a lot of the times, too, these providers come to us as an insurance company and say, I work with adults, I work with kids, I work with teens, I work with EMDR, I work with this, I work with that. And they do not, in reality, actually take all those people. They just want as many referrals as possible. So they make it broad when they sign up with us. So I call and I say, okay, are you still in network? Cool. Are you still at this location? Great. Are you taking new people? Great. This is the person who I have that needs help. She's this gender, this age, looking for this kind of therapy for this kind of issue. Does that fit you? And if they say yes, then I give their information to the patient. Mm-hmm. So it takes out a lot of the middle work for you. And there are people that do this in most of the major insurance companies. Do they always get that specific and do all of that level of searching for you? Not always, I'll be honest. So those people exist out there, and not enough people know that. So call the number on the back of your card. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It is out there. Invest into your matching, whatever it is. If you have more to invest on top of that, open an IRA. Consider which kind is right for you, but I think in most situations it's a Roth. I could be wrong, but I think that's...
Roth is the one I most often hear about.
Yeah. And then just know that when you're pouring money into it, you have to actually go into the account and pick where that money is invested. Mm-hmm. That's an important piece that a lot of people don't realize.
And when you hit a milestone, reward yourself.
That's right. They talk about that too, especially Tori in the financial feminist movement. She talks about rewarding yourself, having those goal marks, those benchmarks that you meet. And that's part of the monthly money date too, is not only seeing what you have left to do, but seeing where you've grown.
Buy some chocolate, get a nice dinner.
That's right. They also talk a lot about the different credit cards and the benefits out there. So if you're a travel girly, they talk about all the best cards for that too. And that's a great way to reward yourself, is by having the right credit card that gives you the right rewards.
That's right. I love reward systems.
Check it out.
If you don't know much about reward systems, check out last week.
That's right. If you're looking for good people to follow, at Your Rich BFF, that's Vivian. She's your favorite Wall Street girly. At Her First 100K, that's Tori Dunlap, the person I reference a lot, and I'm reading the book of right now, Financial Feminist. She also has a podcast that's really good. And they have a series called Financial Foundations, where they go through the steps that we talked about today. So it's a great way to get some information on that. At Call to Leap, and at Humphrey Talks. Those are all people I've been following on TikTok recently that have really grown my knowledge base. So check them out. See if any of them apply to you. So we've had 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks left.
That's right.
Join us. Follow us. We've talked about it before. The best way to help is to like, subscribe, follow, and share.
Yes. We're trying to grow the audience, reach as many mamas as possible, help everybody break free. I want to break free. It's my turn to sing. But we're all going to help each other out. As always, check out the website, workingmomswine.com, patreon.com/workingmomswine. We're Working Moms Wine on TikTok and Instagram. Hopefully
Sharing
I'm better about updating the Instagram. That's definitely my weak point right now. But
mine too. I shared a TikTok a lot, and then sometimes I remember to put it on YouTube, but I never remember to put it on Instagram. So.
Even on my personal one, we have like a hashtag for where I work, and I will occasionally get on there after a really fun event and put something up there, but not nearly as often as I should.
Life.
I know. Hashtag boomers. Not really, but yeah. Anyway, we will see you next week for our next financial session. Bye!